Welcome to a deep dive into something I bet you think about more than you realize. We're talking about UX design, which, if you don't know, is basically the art of making websites, apps, all that digital stuff enjoyable to use.
And to really get into it, we're looking at some fascinating stuff, actual course materials from the University of Houston.
Yeah, a syllabus and presentation deck, all for a class called Introduction to UX Design. But don't worry, this is way more fun than going back to school.
That's right, no tests here. But what's really cool is that these materials actually break down the process of how UX design is taught.
It's like taking a peek behind the curtain of a real design class.
Exactly. And one of the first things that struck me is that they don't just teach what UX design is. They emphasize how it's done, the step-by-step process.
And they stress right off the bat that it's not just about making things look pretty.
Not at all. It's about really understanding the user, their needs, their frustrations, what they're hoping to achieve. That's how you make an experience that truly works.
Sounds like you can have a beautifully designed car, but if the steering wheel is in the back seat, it's not going to be a very good driving experience.
Perfect analogy. And speaking of how things work together, the syllabus talks a lot about this concept of systems thinking.
Yeah, I saw that. Honestly, it sounded a little intimidating at first. Like, are we about to get philosophical here?
It might sound complicated, but it's actually very practical. It's about understanding that everything exists within a larger system. Like, think of a chair in a room, and that room is part of a house, and the house is on a street, and so on.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So in terms of design, you can't just focus on one tiny element in isolation.
Right. You have to think about how it fits into the overall user experience, how it all connects.
And that leads us to another big idea they highlight: moments that matter.
Yes. These are the make or break points in the user experience, those crucial moments that can make or break a product.
Can you give me an example? What kind of moment are we talking about?
Sure, think about using Uber. What makes it different from a traditional taxi? It's not just the ride itself, it's those key moments of being able to book instantly, pay seamlessly, without ever taking out your wallet.
That's so true. I never really thought about it that way, but it's those little moments, those interactions that make it stand out.
Exactly. And this course challenges students to identify those magic moments in their own design solutions, to really think about what will make a user's experience memorable.
So we've talked about systems thinking, those crucial moments, but how do you actually go about understanding what users need in the first place?
Well, that's where the hands-on part comes in. This course is all about getting out there and observing actual users, doing real research.
They even send students out to watch people running to understand the running experience, right?
Exactly. And that highlights a really crucial point in the syllabus and the presentation: empathy.
Okay, so empathy. What does that really mean in the context of UX design?
It means really stepping into your user's shoes, understanding their needs, their pain points, even those unspoken frustrations that they might not even realize they have.
It's like being a detective for how people use technology, right?
Yeah.
Trying to uncover those hidden pain points. And they actually give a great example of that with the whole running assignment.
Oh yeah, the shoe sizing issue.
It sounds so obvious when you say it out loud, but who knew that so many people struggle to find shoes that fit properly?
And that's the point of this kind of research. It reveals those issues that you might not even think about, and that can lead to some really innovative design solutions.
So we've empathized with our users, we've identified some problems. What's the next step? How do you go from people are frustrated with shoe sizes to let's design a better shoe?
That's where the define phase comes in. And that's where things start to get really interesting. They start talking about reframing the problem based on the research, developing value propositions.
Hold on, value propositions. Before we go any further, maybe we should break that down a bit.
Yeah, it sounds kind of jargony, doesn't it? Basically, it's just a clear way of saying what problem your design solves and why anyone should care.
So it's like, instead of saying, we make shoes, you're saying.
More like, our shoes are designed to give you the perfect fit so you can run without pain and achieve your fitness goals.
Ah, okay. So it's about communicating the benefit, the value, not just the product itself.
Exactly. And the course emphasizes how important that is, especially when you're trying to get people on board with your design.
Makes sense. You have to give them a reason to care, right?
Right. And another thing they talk about in the define phase is creating these things called personas.
Personas, like characters?
Kind of. They're like fictional representations of your ideal users, but they're based on real research data.
So instead of designing for some vague idea of like a runner, you're designing for.
Exactly. You might have Sarah, the marathon runner who needs shoes for narrow feet, or John, who runs casually and is on a budget.
Okay, so you're really getting specific and putting a face to your target audience.
Exactly. It just helps you make those design decisions with a real person in mind.
It's like you're designing for Sarah and John, not just a bunch of statistics.
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
it. So we've got our personas, we've defined the problem. What's next?
Well, then comes the really fun part. It's time to start brainstorming solutions.
Let those creative juices flow.
Exactly. The course calls this the ideate phase, and they introduce some really helpful tools like user flows, information architecture.
Okay, hold on. That sounds a little intense.
Yeah.
User flows.
Think of it like a map, but instead of showing roads, it shows the path a user takes through your app or website.
Oh, so you're mapping out every step, every click, every interaction?
Yeah, exactly. It helps you visualize the entire journey from the user's perspective.
And that helps you design a smoother experience, right? No dead ends or confusing detours.
Exactly. And once you've got a good grasp of the flow, then you can start thinking about information architecture.
Okay, so what does that involve? Arranging all the content in a logical way.
Exactly. Think about it like organizing a library.
Well-
You want to make sure everything is easy to find, right? No one wants to wander around lost for hours just to find a book.
Especially in a digital library. You start clicking through endless menus and it's like, forget it.
Right. A clear information architecture is crucial for a good user experience online.
So no one gets lost in the digital stacks. But how do you go from these maps and diagrams to something real, something you can actually test out?
That's where wireframes come in. Have you ever seen those, like, blueprints for a website?
Yeah, with all the boxes and lines showing where everything goes.
Exactly. It's like the skeleton of your design, showing the basic structure and layout.
So you're not worried about colors or fonts yet, just the bare bones functionality.
Right. It helps you focus on the flow and make sure everything makes sense before you get bogged down in the details.
It's like laying the foundation before you start building the house.
Perfect analogy. And once you've got those wireframes in place, then you can start bringing your design to life through prototyping.
Prototyping. Now we're talking. What exactly is that? Is it like a rough draft of your website?
It's even cooler than that. Imagine actually clicking through your app, seeing how it all flows together, but it's not even built yet.
Wait, what? How is that possible?
They have these incredible design tools now. Figma is a popular one, and you can actually create interactive mock-ups of your designs. You can link screens together, add animations, really get a feel for the user experience.
So it's like holding your app in your hand, even though it doesn't exist yet. That's amazing.
I know, right? And the best part is you can use these prototypes to get feedback early on before you spend a ton of time and money building the real thing.
That's so smart. It's like a safety net to catch any potential problems early on.
Exactly. And the course really emphasizes the importance of testing throughout the entire design process.
Like those moments in design school where they pin up everyone's work on the wall and it's like critique time.
Labs. Exactly. They have in-class testing where students get feedback from each other and the instructors. And then they also talk about usability testing.
Which is where you actually put your designs in front of real users.
Yes. And that's where you can really see how people actually use your product, what works, what doesn't. You might be surprised by what you discover.
I bet. And all that feedback helps you make a better product in the end.
Exactly. And that leads us to the final phase of this whole UX design journey. Deliver.
Time to show off all your hard work. But what does deliver actually mean in the world of UX design? Is it as simple as just handing over a finished app?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. It's about telling the story of your design.
Storytelling. I wouldn't have guessed that was part of UX design.
It's more important than you might think. Think about it. You've done all this research, all this ideation, all this prototyping. Now you need to communicate that to your audience.
So it's about connecting the dots for them, showing how all your design choices led to this final product.
Exactly. You're showing the why behind the what. You're explaining how your design solves a problem and makes people's lives better.
And I'm guessing a good story makes people more likely to actually use and love your product.
Exactly. It's about making that human connection, showing that there's real thought and intention behind everybody, every menu, every interaction.
It's like you're taking them on the design journey with you.
Exactly. It's all about that connection.
It's amazing how much storytelling influences our experience, even with something as technical as app design.
It's true, and it shows how much thought goes into making the things we use every day. And speaking of every day, we've been talking about UX design like it's something only professionals do.
Right, like you need years of design school to even understand it, let alone apply it.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
We're all users, right?
Mm.
Every time you open an app, visit a website, you're interacting with design choices that someone made.
So you're saying I don't need a fancy design degree to start thinking like a UX designer?
Not at all. You can start by just paying attention to your own experiences.
Okay, like what? How did that work?
Well, the next time you're using an app and it's frustrating you, instead of just getting annoyed, take a second to actually think about WHY. It's frustrating.
So like instead of yelling at my phone when I order food online, I should be taking notes on the app's design flaws.
You got it. What's frustrating about the layout is the button in a weird place. Does the menu make sense?
I can already see myself becoming that person at the restaurant with my friends, dissecting the app while we're waiting for our food.
Hey, awareness is the first step. Once you start thinking that way, you'll be amazed how much you notice. And who knows, you might even start coming up with solutions.
Yeah. Like what would I do differently if I were designing this app?
Exactly. What features would you prioritize? How would you make the experience more intuitive?
I might even be inspired to actually sketch out some ideas, even if it's just on a napkin. You never know.
There you go. And that's what's so cool about UX design. It's not some abstract concept. It's all around us. And anyone can learn to appreciate it and even contribute to it.
It's like we're all part of this giant design conversation, whether we realize it or not.
Exactly. And the more we understand the principles of good design, the better we can advocate for experiences that work for everyone.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of UX design, remember, it's not just about making things pretty. It's about making things work, making things make sense, and making things enjoyable to use.
And that's something we can all appreciate.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe this deep dive has sparked a new passion in one of you listening. Maybe the next big UX designer is out there right now, inspired by what they've heard today.
I hope so.
So until next time, keep those design eyes open and keep exploring the world with that UX curiosity.